The new Pixar animated film Onward is coming out very soon, directed by Dan Scanlon, also the director of Monsters University, and honestly, I'm not really that interested in this movie. If I'm gonna be honest, Pixar movies as of recent have not really held my interest, and I've always wondered why I'm not really getting into these movies as I used to. It can't be my age because Pixar movies are notorious for transcending the child barrier and appealing to adults as well. These movies are still getting Oscar nominations, they're still critically acclaimed, but for some reason they're just not really holding my interest. So I decided to look up every Pixar film ever made and decided to pinpoint exactly when I started losing interest in these films. So from 1995 to 2009, Pixar was on a roll. Movies like Toy Story, Finding Nemo, The Incredibles, Monsters Inc., Ratatouille, which is incredibly underrated, I think, one of the greatest Pixar movies of all time, WALL-E. These are movies that still hold up today and are regarded as one of the greatest movies, not even animated movies, one of the greatest movies of all time. From 1995 to 2009, these movies were fantastic. I loved them. Plenty of other people loved them. They were critically acclaimed. They were prime Pixar. So what changed in the new decade that made me go from loving Pixar to liking Pixar? Well, for one thing, Pixar movies came out at a much faster rate. From 1995 to 2009, there'd be points where Pixar wouldn't make movies for 2 years. Now, obviously, as they got the ball rolling, as their films were doing better and better, they would start releasing them more often. That's to be expected. If you're making great products, there's going to be a higher demand for them, therefore, you got to make those products. I get it. But this new decade, they went crazy with the movies, and honestly, I would say that they did a little too much. Starting in 2015, Pixar started doing 2 movies a year. Now, they didn't continue this trend every single year, but they did it for more than just 1 year. In 2015, we had Inside Out and The Good Dinosaur. One of those movies is incredible. I would say one of the greatest movies Pixar's ever made, and the other one is The Good Dinosaur. Now, I'm not saying you can't put out 2 masterpieces in 1 year. That's not what I'm saying at all, but the chances of that happening are lessened. It's already hard enough to make a good movie, but to make a fantastic movie that'll resonate with people for years to come, that's damn near impossible. And to try to attempt to do it 2 times in 1 year, that is not an easy thing. And it just comes to show that even a giant company like Pixar is not able to do that. In 2017, you had Cars 3 and Coco the same year. Again, one of those movies was incredible, the other one was Cars 3. And again, in 2020, this year, Onward is coming out very soon, and we're also gonna get Soul later this year. Now, I can't speak for everybody, but for myself, I believe that they're doing way too much, way too quickly, and honestly, it's burning out a lot of people, myself included. It's a tricky situation because on one hand, I understand you're making money, people want to see your movie, so naturally, let's make more movies in 1 year. I get the mindset and I get it from a business standpoint, but as a result of releasing more movies every single year, it seems like the level of quality is decreasing. Again, if you look at the old Pixar movies, there are a ton of movies that I could call a masterpiece. If you look at this new decade, you can't really say the same. Let me read out a couple and see if you agree with me. Toy Story 3, I think it's a great movie, I wouldn't call it a masterpiece. Cars 2, I don't think anyone's calling that a masterpiece. Brave, which is regarded as Pixar's worst film by many people. Monsters University, a movie that a lot of us still to this day believe we didn't need. Inside Out, which I believe is an outlier to this situation. There's always going to be one in every situation. This movie, in my opinion, is a masterpiece. It is one of Pixar's greatest movies, and it'll go down as one of the greatest animated movies of all time. The Good Dinosaur, I didn't see it, and neither did you. Finding Dory, again, a movie we didn't really need. It came out and people didn't really care for it. Cars 3, do I need to say anything else? Coco, again, another outlier. This movie's really, really good, and it'll definitely go down as one of the greatest Pixar movies of the decade. Incredibles 2, now this one is different because a lot of people wanted to see this movie, but in my opinion, and I know I've seen a lot of other people share the same sentiment, it was kind of mediocre. Toy Story 4, I actually like Toy Story 4 a lot, but as time goes on, I start to like it less and less, and again, I'm starting to see the same sentiment with other people. They like it, but they don't love Toy Story 4. And now pretty soon we're getting Onward, which from what I've seen online, people like it, but they're not loving it. They're not regarding it as one of Pixar's finest films. And while this level of quality would be more than okay for other production companies, hell, if I made a movie and it was getting reviews like Onward, I would be popping champagne bottles for weeks. But the reality of the situation is that this is Pixar. They have set a high bar for themselves, rightfully so, and with their new films, they've been underperforming in terms of quality. In terms of box office, they're always going to be fine. Yeah, some movies underperform like The Good Dinosaur, but most of the time, they'll do fine in terms of box office. But in terms of quality, in terms of having that Pixar magic, these new films are lacking in it. I attribute that to the amount of Pixar movies we're getting in recent years, but also if you take a look at the recent Pixar movies, a lot of them are sequels to old Pixar movies. Toy Story 3, Cars 2, Monsters University, Finding Dory, Cars 3, Incredibles 2, Toy Story 4. A lot of these movies, people will say that we didn't need them, and the original stood on its own and we were fine with just that movie. And if you look at the original movies Pixar was releasing, like Coco and Inside Out, those are Pixar's finest films and they are not related to any other movie in the Pixar universe. I believe both of these issues go hand in hand. Pixar wants to release more movies every year because there's a high demand for them, but it's going to be hard to release original films at this rate. So what do? You're going to take an old property, slap a number 2 on it, and release it because it'll make money, it'll get pretty good reviews, and you'll call it a day. But again, what I would prefer, and it's probably never going to happen because that's not how business works, is for Pixar to go back in time and release movies every year or even every other year. This will give them time to come up with new original stories that'll resonate with today's children and adults and will hopefully bring back that Pixar magic that a lot of us are saying is missing from these new films. Again, that's never going to happen. They're making money. They have a formula that works for them. But if I had a choice, if I had a decision in any of this, that's what I would want them to do. Again, this is not to say that Pixar is making bad films because they're not. Every single one of their movies is still a good movie, but they're missing that Pixar magic that the old movies had and the new movies are lacking. Again, this doesn't apply to every movie. I believe Inside Out still has that magic and Coco has the magic in a different way, but it's still a beautiful film. Regardless of what direction Pixar is going to go in, I'll still support the movies, but I do miss the glory days of Pixar where every single movie had that magic, had that Pixar touch that these movies seem to be lacking. Guys, those are my thoughts. Those are my opinions on Pixar. Do you believe that there's an issue with Pixar, that there's something they're missing, there's something they're lacking in these new films? Is it just me? Am I the only one that wishes for the old days of Pixar to come back? Let me know in the comment section down below what your thoughts, what your opinions are. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all have a good one and take care.